Have you heard? It's raining men, which apparently happens a lot when you're skating in Nice, France for the 2012 World Championships. Now, if you caught any of the broadcast from Nice, France this week for the World Championships, I'm sure you heard "It's Raining Men" on more than one occasion. I'm not entirely sure what the fascination was with this song, but unfortunately it became kind of a premonition of sorts in that there was a lot of raining, falling going on in the men's short program. So come time for the free skate, again, we weren't entirely sure what to expect, but fingers crossed, we were hoping for a much cleaner event in the free skate than in the short programs. Now, for the American men, they needed more than just a clean skate or two. They needed really perfection if they were going to be able to climb up the ladder and get into position to potentially reclaim a third spot on the American team. Unfortunately, things didn't go according to plan for either Adam Rippon, who skated first, or for Jeremy Abbott. Adam Rippon skated an admirable program in that he kept fighting for things all the way through. He landed a beautiful triple-triple combination, but there were struggles on so many other jump elements. He went for the quad Salchow and under-rotated it and fell, and that started things off in a negative way. And it's so difficult when you know that you're skating from behind and then you start off your program with a fall to get back up and get into it and complete everything else perfectly. And it just wasn't going to happen for Adam Rippon this week. There was a lot of doom and gloom about the U.S. men, and I think it's important to realize that their talent is there, but even with Adam Rippon, he doesn't have a ton of elite-level international experience. Hopefully, now, I can't predict the future or what they're going to do next season or the year after the fact, but hopefully the depth in the U.S. program as far as the talent goes, will push all of these guys to be more consistent and to really challenge their competitive edge. And we'll see that manifest itself more in competition. Jeremy Abbott was in a great position to move up because his free skate is so strong in so many ways, and he seems to have finally gained the attention of the judges in the program component marks. Unfortunately, this was not his day either, and there was a lot of downside to this skate because of the mistakes on the jump elements. And those mistakes on the jump elements led to an overall disconnect between the program, the elements, and the emotion that we've seen Jeremy pour into this program so much this season. He would finish 8th, Adam Rippon would finish 13th, and after the potential that they had to finish so strongly in the world standings, that's certainly a disappointment. But anyone who gets out there to skate has done far more than I have at the elite world level, so they fought for everything that they did, and they didn't just give up. They didn't walk away from it, and they still have things that they can look on this season and hopefully learn from as they move on towards next year. So that all happened towards the beginning of the event, and then we had all of the medal hopefuls still to skate, and there was a bit of a shake-up at the top, as we kind of expected, because some of the higher finishers after the short program aren't known really for their consistency. Michael Brezina skated last with a great chance to put himself on the podium, and unfortunately it wasn't meant to be. He has very strong programs this year that highlight his strengths. Plus, there's a lot of complex and interesting choreography that make them very entertaining and very interesting to watch. And when he hits his jump elements, they're very competitive programs, as we saw in the short program. A long program is simply a whole nother animal to tackle. It's so much longer, and there are so many more elements involved that there are obviously more chances to miss elements. Plus, when you don't have the levels in the spins or in the footwork like some of these guys do, you leave a lot of points on the table that are going to be capitalized upon by those guys at the top when you have Patrick Chens and Daisuke Takahashi's who excel in those footwork and spin elements. Michael Brzezina would finish in 6th, but he had a lot to be proud of this season. Such a strong performance from him on so many occasions. A couple of medals on the Grand Prix circuit, and a top 6 world finish. That's nothing to complain about when you look at the guys that finished ahead of him. There's such a deep field in the men's world right now. The 2 Frenchmen who skated in the last group skated back-to-back. Florent Amodio skated first, and he skated a strong program. It wasn't flawless. He's had kind of a strange season in that he's kind of in between that phase where he came up and shocked everyone with how much talent he has, and then figuring out what exactly to do with that and where he wants his skating to go. His programs this year are much more refined, but I feel like they're a bit heavy for someone with so much personality, and that may have allowed him to focus on some of those other things, but it also kind of reined him in a way that kept all of that from translating as well as it possibly could have. It's a very intense free skate. He did enough to finish top 5 in the world, but not enough to move himself up on the podium. Brian Gilbert almost did, and he's an interesting case because he's gone back to, yet again, the Matrix program that he's so comfortable with. The 2007 version is what he skated here, and it doesn't have the international judging system tweaks. It doesn't have the details. It doesn't have the finesse. It's very much a 6.0 program that translates so well because he hits the jumps. The jumps were flawless. They were spot on. It was a clinic as far as jump technique and landing your jumps in the most important moment of your competition season. But there's a lot left to be desired in the in-betweens and in the program components, and I actually feel he was a bit overscored here in the program components. I tend not to complain too much about the scores, but I felt he benefited significantly in the program component marks thanks to the hometown crowd that cheered and clapped and screamed every time he moved. So that may have given him a little bit of an edge in those performance-based marks, but still, for someone who has struggled so much to get his competitive career back on track, this was a good place for him to put down that kind of program. And if he does, in fact, retire from international competition, from competition at all this season, that was the way everyone wants to go out. That was a fantastic skate that put him in medal contention for a lot of the rest of the evening. Now, of course, it came down to Patrick Chan and Daisuke Takahashi for the title. And this is where the controversy began, as was expected, but it was quite ferocious on Twitter and on the internet world between the two. The fact is, Daisuke Takahashi's passion translates better to an audience than Patrick Chan's does. Now, I've had several conversations about this in the last few days, and I am not one that sees Patrick Chan's performance as passionless. Quite the contrary, I see so much passion in the theory behind everything that he does, in the way that a blade makes a curve, in the way that he turns into a certain move, a certain element. Every little detail of the program is crafted passionately. Daisuke Takahashi skates with passion throughout every move in a way that connects the audience to those moves. And that's a bit different than the way that Patrick Chan skates. It's not as intimate. It's larger than life, but it's not as you and me. And that's where Daisuke tends to grab the audience more significantly than Patrick Chan does. But ultimately, again, while Daisuke Takahashi may have been underscored in the program component marks, in the grand scheme of things, it would not have mattered, because Patrick Chan had 2 quads. Did he fall? Yes. But Daisuke Takahashi wasn't flawless either, and he had a significantly 2-footed quad jump, and only 1. So unfortunately, in a sport that combines athleticism and artistry, there has to be a balance there, and in this instance, Patrick Chan had that technical edge that was going to give him the win unless he struggled significantly and unless Daisuke nailed his technical elements. They both put out programs to be proud of. They both had competitions to be proud of. They've both had seasons to be proud of. And yet, I would hate to be Patrick Chan today, because so much of the world disregards what he does well because they feel Daisuke Takahashi is undermarked. And I understand wanting your favorite to win. But I don't understand blaming Patrick Chan for the marks that he is given. And here's why. Every single one of these elite level skaters goes into a competition, particularly where they're considered a medal favorite, with the same intention: to put their best performances on the ice that give them the best chance of winning a title. That's no different between Patrick Chan, Daisuke Takahashi, Jeremy Abbott, or anyone else. That's their game plan. That's all they can control. That doesn't matter whether it happens that way, like it did with Patrick Chan, or it doesn't with Jeremy Abbott. All the skater can control is their own performance. And yet, when the judges determine that one skater is better than another, which is the whole point of competition, the skater tends to take the rap for that when some fans don't agree. The problem is, it's not Patrick Chan who's doing the scoring. I remember a situation, and I will never forget, one of Patrick Chan's earlier Grand Prix wins. He won. It was a significantly flawed free skate. But in the kiss and cry, the marks went up, and they were huge. He grimaced, shook his head, and said, "Sorry, I'll deserve it next time." The marks that he receives, that we've so lovingly deemed Chanflation, are not his problem. They're not his fault. All he can do is go out and put his best foot forward, and then let the judges determine what that means. Whether his best that day is better than anyone else's best. Can't hate the skater, even if you hate the game. While all of that was going on, there was still one medal up for grabs, and that was no surprise. It's the one medal that we all expected would be up for grabs among the rest of the talent in the field. We assumed that Chan and Takahashi would take those top steps, but what we didn't assume is that it would be the youngster Yuzuru Hanyu in what has been a very strong season, coming in, taking the bronze medal, and really the event with the performance of the night. This is a skater that has been a bit erratic at times and hasn't necessarily had the consistency to match the talent. I've heard that before. But he came into this event very determined, and you could see in the way that he skated that he was going to stay in it. In the free skate, hit the quad, did the triples, made all of the jumps look easy, and then fell in the middle of a footwork sequence. It was a silly fall, a silly mistake, but a mistake that in earlier competitions this season would have taken him completely out of the game. They would have destroyed his confidence, destroyed his concentration, and he would have made mistake after mistake after mistake through the rest of the program. But not here. He recovered from it, and although it seems to take him a long time to get back into the program, it didn't hinder the rest of the technical elements, and so much of what he does is so strong in the skating skills and the program components department that it really didn't change much for him. He actually beat Daisuke Takahashi in the free skate, which adds to that Patrick Chan, Daisuke Takahashi argument, but we won't go back to that. Hanyu with the bronze medal, he was so excited, and I cannot wait to see how his talent develops. I have a feeling this is just the beginning for him. I kind of feel like a broken record saying it, but what a wild event. That seems to be the trend here at these World Championships, and there was certainly more to come, as the ladies were yet to skate. But the medals were determined. Patrick Chan is the two-time champion, Daisuke Takahashi with a strong silver medal, and his teammate, Yuzuru Hanyu, joined him on the podium with the bronze. It was an exciting event, and as we hoped, a much better free skate than it was a short program, and overall, we saw some pretty amazing skating, which is all you can ask for at a World Championship. Congrats to the medalists, and we'll get to the ladies next.